Viewers. Gwzcaon? The will of the Lord be done. Good morning, win today, win tomorrow, and forever. Prophecy Confirmation. On the 1st February 2026, Prophet Bright, a revelational son of Prophet T.B. Joshua, spoke, through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, concerning what was to happen in the island of Madagascar. God said through his servant, I see flood and a lot of wind blowing in Madagascar, which is killing people and destroy infrastructure such as house flats. Electricity system will be affected. After 10 days the prophecy was fulfilled. It's a need for us to pray for Madagascar. Viewers, watch.
But what happened in Toamasina was only the beginning of a much larger disaster that is still unfolding right now. Cyclone Gwzcaon formed as a tropical disturbance off Madagascar's northeastern coast on February 5th. Within 4 days, it had intensified into an intense tropical cyclone. On the evening of February 10th, it made a direct hit on Toamasina with sustained winds of 180 kilometers per hour and gusts reaching 250 kilometers per hour. The Regional Specialized Meteorological Center on France's Reunion Island confirmed that the port city had been struck by the most intense part of the storm. The center said this landfall was likely one of the most powerful recorded in the southwestern Indian Ocean during the entire satellite era, rivaling Cyclone Geralda, which killed at least 200 people in the same region back in 1994. By Wednesday, Gwzcaon had crossed the island from east to west, weakening as it dragged across Madagascar's mountain spine, passing roughly 100 kilometers north of the capital Antananarivo. But the damage was already catastrophic. Colonel Michael Randrianarina, Madagascar's head of state, traveled to Toamasina and declared a national disaster. He said that nearly 75% of the city had been destroyed. That figure landed hard. Nearly 18,000 homes were flattened. Another 37,000 were damaged or flooded. More than 250,000 people were classified as disaster victims in a single event. The main road connecting Toamasina to the capital was severed in multiple places, cutting off humanitarian convoys. The airport was shut to all commercial flights. It remained open only for military and aid operations. Telecommunications across the region remained unstable for days. And here is the part that changes the scale of this story entirely. Gwzcaon was not finished. It was just crossing to the other side. Toamasina sits on Madagascar's eastern coast, facing the open Indian Ocean. Roughly 220 kilometers to the southwest is the capital Antananarivo. On the opposite side of the island, separated by the Mozambique Channel, is the southeastern African nation of Mozambique. The channel is roughly 400 kilometers wide at its narrowest, and its waters are warm. Warm enough to do exactly what forecasters feared. When Gwzcaon exited Madagascar's western coast on Wednesday evening and moved out over the open channel, it began to re-intensify. By Thursday, the Regional Meteorological Center was tracking steady strengthening, and the forecast pointed directly at the coast of Inhambane Province in southern Mozambique. But that is only half the problem. The real danger is not just what Gwzcaon is becoming, it is what Mozambique has already been through. Since late December, weeks of intense rain have swollen rivers across southern Mozambique and overwhelmed key reservoirs. The Limpopo, the Inkamati, and the Save all burst their banks. NASA satellite imagery from late January showed vast agricultural plains transformed into inland seas. By the time the rain eased, more than 700,000 people had been affected. Nearly 400,000 people were displaced. Over 170,000 homes were damaged or destroyed. 180,000 hectares of crops were underwater. In Sai, the capital of Gaza province, streets looked like rivers, and authorities issued warnings about crocodiles entering flooded urban areas. Paula Emerson, the head of OCHA in Mozambique, said the numbers kept rising as dams continued releasing water to avoid bursting. She pointed out that 90% of homes in the country are made of adobe, earth-based structures that, in her words, basically melt after a few days of rain. That is the country Gwzcaon is now heading toward. Not a country at full strength, but one already on its knees, with saturated soil, depleted emergency supplies, and overcrowded shelters still full from the last disaster. And there is another layer. For Madagascar, Gwzcaon was not even the first blow. Just 11 days earlier, Cyclone FYTIA struck the island's northwest, killing at least 12 people, displacing 31,000 people, damaging nearly 500 classrooms and 20 health facilities. Communities that had barely begun clearing debris from FYTA were hit again by Gwzcaon. The United Nations described it as compounding existing humanitarian needs. Here is what the next 24 hours look like. As of Friday morning, Mozambique's National Meteorological Institute confirmed that Gwzcaon had intensified to a severe tropical storm, with sustained winds of 100 kilometers per hour and gusts to 150 kilometers per hour. Forecast models show the system strengthening further as it approaches the coast, with winds potentially reaching 140 kilometers per hour and gusts up to 240 kilometers per hour. Dorival Mutareda, the director of Mozambique's National Institute of Meteorology, warned earlier this week that the system had the potential to approach the coast as a tropical cyclone, affecting the coastal districts of Sofala, Inhambane, and Gaza provinces. Fernando Rafael, Mozambique's Minister of Public Works, said that more than 1 million people along the central and southern coast could be affected if the cyclone strengthens as projected. The forecast track from the Regional Meteorological Center shows Gwzcaon approaching closest to Inhambane from Friday evening, with gale force winds expected to begin that night, escalating to storm force and potentially hurricane force overnight into Saturday. Heavy rainfall of 100 millimeters is forecast along the coast, with local totals possibly reaching 200 millimeters. Seas of 7 to 10 meters are expected in the channel. Forecasters say a very close coastal passage or even temporary partial landfall cannot be ruled out. After that, most models show the system turning south and eventually curving east, back out into the open ocean by Sunday. But model agreement remains poor beyond Saturday, and the uncertainty window at 5 days stretches over 1,200 kilometers. In Inhambane, people are not waiting for the models to converge. Fisherman Jaime Nito told Reuters that all sailors had been informed about the incoming cyclone. It was his turn to fish, he said, but they were not going out. Across the port city, residents have been placing sandbags on roofs to stop them from being blown off and barricading windows with sheets of corrugated iron. Local authorities have suspended all coastal navigation. Accommodation centers are being prepared, with instructions to prioritize children, the elderly, pregnant women, and people with disabilities. Mozambican civil protection authorities have issued formal warnings across Inhambane, Sofala, and Gaza provinces. The National Institute for Disaster Risk Management and the National Emergency Operations Center have urged residents to reinforce homes, prepare survival kits, store essential documents and food in safe locations, and identify nearby shelters. River basins, including the Mutamba, Save, and Limpopo, are on high flood alert. Small boats have been ordered ashore. As Adarito Jimba of Oxfam, Mozambique put it, this could be yet another disaster to hit communities already reeling from months of heavy rainfall and flooding, with hundreds of thousands already forced from their homes and in urgent need of food and shelter. Gwzcaon has already left one country in ruins. Tonight, it is heading for another that was already struggling to stand.
You will say we prayed for this. So thank you so much for your interest and your prayers. We appreciate your prayers as Gwzcaon. Thank you so much. Today, another thing, I saw a highland. There is an highland where people they have been sitting. This is an island I am seeing. When an highland, it is the land that has been set on the water, on the middle of the water, meaning the water it's surrounded with water, with sea. This is an island. I saw this island being crowded with a lot of floods, and most of the pupils they were dead. I saw people dying. I mean, children at a young age being died with this flood, which will come. It will come at the wind blowing because of the weather. The same thing is the weather destroying this island. This island, some schools will be destroyed, and also some floods. I'm seeing the floods which also will be destroyed because of this same flood and water. So we need to give them to the hand of God, to pray for them. This is the highlands I am seeing being flooded with water. When I say flooded, being occupied with water, and it is a lot of wind blowing. It's destroyed also the network system, the electricity system because of this flood and wind. This is what is happening, what's going to happen, and Ireland, we need to pray. And also Madagascar. Madagascar being flooded with a lot of wind, being flooded, and people, they were quite as if it's the earthquake has passed through the earthquake. You know, the earthquake, the holes everywhere because of this flood. And I saw vehicles being flowing in those port walls, those earthquakes walls. That's what I'm seeing right now.